G'day, welcome to Navadia. How you going, everyone? Today I just decided to do a quick Google search to figure out why we, as people, should not actually have sex before marriage. Yes, it is a very important question that needs to be answered, but I, as a non-religious person, kind of wanted to find out why me, as a non-religious person, shouldn't have sex before said marriage. Because, you know, if something is good and applies to me, then I really need to find out what it is. I came across someone called Emily Wilson. She seems to be a really lovely person, quite nice, you know, friendly, all that jazz. So I'm not going to throw any shade on her. And she came up with the perfect video for me. Because, as I said, I wanted to find out if there were any secular reasons why I, as an atheist, shouldn't have sex before marriage. And thank goodness I found this.
So, on a recent video, I got 2 comments. One comment said, why on earth would anyone save sex for marriage? And the second one was, you should make a video on reasons why living chastely is worth it.
I am so glad she made this video. I'm really looking forward to seeing this. By the way, she released this video about a year ago, so you probably haven't actually seen many people respond to this. I haven't seen her being responded to at all, so yeah, I might have a bit more of a dig around on her channel just in case there's anything else that I, as an atheist, would be able to, you know, use to make my life better. Of course, if you want to watch the video, I have obviously linked it in the description below.
These 30 reasons are not my reasons. I polled, once again, the wonderful women at Blessed Is She. This is about 20,000 women that I offered I posed this question to them so that they can respond.
So she's asked a group of about 20,000 women why we should not have sex before marriage. And, you know, I'm not going to say this is exactly true, but going by the name of that group, I would almost guarantee you every single one of them were Christian, or at least profess to be Christian. As you know, I have a little bit of a following, more on Twitter if you want to contact me through Twitter, of course, links in the description below. And of course, I asked this similar question, and these were the results. As you can see, our friendship group are the type of people who kind of think similar to us, so it kind of makes me wonder what sort of responses this lady has had and how influenced these results were by Christianity. Let's continue on, but I'm certain she'll be able to make me think, yes, this is why I should save myself for marriage.
These are women from all walks of life, women who are married, women who are unmarried, women who chose to save sex for marriage, women who recommitted to chastity until they were married. Each of these points is the real life experience of a woman who answered this question, and I wanted to share those with you.
And I'm glad these women have had these real life experiences, and good on them, and I'm not taking that away from them. But the question that I have, are they only Christians? Did you get experiences from non-Christian people, such as atheists, pagans, Islamic people, Jewish people? You know, there's a wide variety of people who are not Christian that might be able to have a little bit more of an input. Did you talk to people who used to be sex workers? Did you talk to people who used to work with people with disability or do have a disability? Did you talk to all of those people? Or did you just only talk to people who follow your religion?
A few disclaimers. This video is not at all meant to be insensitive to women who have been sexually violated in any way. For those of you who have been here for a long time, you know that women who have experienced those things are always on my heart, always in my prayers. And I made a video where I discussed that thoroughly, and I will link that below. So I want to make that abundantly clear from the get-go.
You know what? I'm actually really glad that she's brought this up because, you know, women who have been sexually violated, it wasn't their fault, and I'm so glad that she's praying for them because her God wasn't able to stop it to begin with, but let's ignore that.
The second thing is that I'll also link my puppies and bunnies video because I know for a fact that I would say, for instance, people who save sex for marriage have good self-discipline, and someone would say, oh, so what? People who don't are not capable of self-discipline at all. Puppies and bunnies. Watch the video.
You know what? It never occurred to me that people like myself who have had sex before marriage have no self-discipline. I never would have been able to get through university without self-discipline. Jeez. Maybe that's why I haven't finished uni. Not because I can't actually do it because I'm going through lab courses, and COVID-19 is a thing and they've closed the university. No, it's because I lack self-discipline.
And lastly, before anyone accuses me of like stirring up fear in women, this is not that. Sharing the real life experiences of women, these answers that women gave me, is not based in fear. It's based in their honest and true life experience. What they want young women and young men, because I think you can benefit from this, to know. Obviously, many people do this for a lot of different reasons, and some of those reasons are religious, but I wanted to present these in hopes that it would make sense to people who have these questions, who have never subscribed to faith at all in their lives. Let's get to it. Treating my sexuality with respect helps remind me of my value.
So you're saying that you lose value if you have sex? That's kind of not how biology works. Women back thousands of years ago, if they weren't considered to be a virgin, they lost value. They lost monetary value because back then women were considered, property. Nowadays, it's not the same. Your value as a human being is not depreciated if you have sex. And the idea that you think that is really, really not okay. Okay, so that's number one, but let's continue on. I might be able to find one that really sticks home.
Saving sex for marriage makes relationships way less hard when they're already hard enough. The world felt like it was ending after the last relationship I was in ended, and I cannot imagine how much worse that would have been if sex had been involved and complicated my emotions even more.
Okay, relationships can be hard, but if they're hard enough, then you kind of have to wonder, what is the relationship dynamic like? Everyone has fights with their significant others, and that comes down to the way you communicate. And yeah, opening up about your feelings can be pretty hard, but that shouldn't mean that a relationship is hard. And if a relationship is actually hard, it might not actually be a very good relationship. It might even be a, heavens forbid, abusive relationship. If you felt like the world was going to end because your relationship was finishing, that's not a healthy thing. You might have some sort of emotional dysregulation, for example. I'm a person with ADHD, and people with ADHD can get rejection-sensitive disorder. And what that means is that this person is so hurt by any form of rejection. That disorder is not something that's often talked about with ADHD. I know that I have it, and I'm aware that it's a thing. And because of that, I'm able to handle breakups a lot better. If you have such horrible experiences when you've been rejected, then there might be some sort of underlying problem. I am not suggesting this person has ADHD because, I don't know this person. But also, if you have a relationship that makes you feel like the world is about to end when it finishes, there might be something that is not right. It could be something like rejection-sensitive dysphoria, or it could be something more like guilt or shame or whatever that's been put onto you by your purity culture religious institution. And it's not healthy. And honestly, if you do experience that, I suggest going and seeing a counselor about it. Also, this story makes me think to myself that there's putting a lot of emotional baggage on sex. Sex is sex, and it makes you emotionally bond to somebody as much as you want it to.
It's an absolutely sure way to know if you're honestly loved by a man or lusted after, because self-sacrifice is the truest form of love. It solidifies that my partner is interested in me, not because he is benefiting physically.
You do realize being physically and emotionally attached to people, it's not a zero-sum game. I mean, I have so much emotional attachment to my pet snake, and I would be devastated if either of them died. Does that mean that I'm sexually attracted to them? Not at all. That's disgusting. The idea that you have to be celibate with somebody to find out that they are emotionally going to be with you and not there just for physical reasons, that doesn't make any sense.
Committing to waiting until marriage with my husband was worth it because it mirrors how committed we are to loving each other enough to work on a great sex life within marriage.
Just because you haven't had sex with someone, it doesn't mean that you're committed to them. You might think, oh, my husband, he waited for me. And yet you might not realize, but he's off having sex with someone else. Having ability to have sex with somebody gives you an idea of how committed they are to you. And also, of course, your sexual compatibility. What if you're ace? What if he's ace? What if you're hypersexual, but he's not? Or the other way around. You don't know until you have sex for the first time or the first couple of months. That keeps coming up in so many arguments against sex before marriage because it is true.
I have weird dreams about my exes who I had sexual relationships with that I wish would stop.
In that case, go and seek some help. I've never really experienced that. Occasionally I might have a dream about previous exes and having sex with them. That's totally normal. But if that's happening on a regular thing, you might be having some experience of difficulty letting go, and you are punishing yourself and your partner for something that wasn't his fault and what is not your fault. You need to go and talk to someone about it. You need to stop causing issues and stop stressing about it and stop punishing yourself for doing something that is totally normal.
I saved sex for marriage because bonding as a couple in non-sexual ways is essential to a lasting relationship. Shortly after my first wedding anniversary, I ended up in the hospital for 3 months out of town and was very weak for months after that, but my husband was by my side every day. If we depended on sex for bonding, we would not have made it through that time.
I'm actually really glad that that person was able to survive that ordeal. It sounds pretty nasty, and I genuinely hope that they are perfectly okay, and of course that they don't have any long-term issues. However, they're again saying that you can't bond with somebody if you're having sex with them, or the sex bond is stronger than the emotional bond. That's completely not true. It's not a zero-sum game. You can't go, oh, I've bonded with somebody because I've had sex, therefore they can't be emotionally attached to me. But that doesn't make any sense, because they're also saying that emotionally attaching somebody is because of sex. I don't understand this idea of the fact that you can't emotionally bond, but you have to emotionally bond. It's self-contradictory. You can fall in love and bond with somebody platonically. What do you think a best friend is?
I have heard too many women worried about whether the guy they are dating is right for them because the sex isn't as good as it was with a past boyfriend who was not good for them at all.
Well, then teach them. Just because that person doesn't know what you like, tell them, talk to them, have a communication with them. You can talk while having sex. There is no law saying that you can't. If you say, look, I really like this, tell them. It might not be their thing. That's perfectly fine. You can get around these sorts of things. You don't need to be stuck in a previous relationship and bring all the baggage to the current one. Learning about your sexuality and how things work and what you like can make your sex life with your current partner 1,000 or more times better. You just gotta teach them.
Experiencing sex for the first time with your husband, a man who is committed to honoring and loving you for life, is experiencing love at one of its purest forms, giving yourself and receiving the other.
There are lots of people out there who have had multiple sex with one person for 30 years and they're still not married. That person's life, their lover, the person that they are with, is still wanting to be with them. They're just not married. Just because it's got a ring on your finger doesn't mean that this is going to happen for the rest of your life. You know, right now, you're happy. He's honoring you. What's to say in 5, 10 or 15 years' time he's not honoring someone else?
My husband and I have no one to compare each other's performance to. I'm perfectly satisfied with him because he's all I know. But if I'd had other experiences, I'd be aware of differences and distinctions. It's easy to idealize past boyfriends in that time before kids and responsibilities of life. I can't imagine how much harder that would be if there had been sex involved.
If he's got no one else to compare it to, how does he know that you're doing what he wants you to do? No one's perfect in the sack. You can always improve. Getting tips and ideas is not a bad thing. And if you're constantly comparing someone that you're sleeping with now to someone in the past, that's not healthy. Your heart gets broken, you leave, whatever, you heal. And if you can't do that, then you need to go and see someone who is a professional counselor, not a Christian counselor, by the way.
When you're married, you don't have to worry about getting caught or someone finding out. While it is a private thing, it's not like you're doing something you shouldn't, and there is so much freedom in that.
If you're worried about getting caught having sex with somebody, that is very, very toxic. Purity culture has caused a lot of women and a lot of men to have a lot of repressed sexual feelings, and it is known to be very, very damaging. I don't think I have ever met a person who's come out of purity culture with a healthy mindset on what sex is. How about you just consider saying that what happens in someone's private life is someone's private life and you shouldn't butt your nose into their own business. I would be pretty pissed off if someone came up to me and went, I know what you did last night and ha ha, and spread it around. That is my private life, and if something like that happened to me, I would not be impressed. It has happened to me, and it was very, very mortifying.
Keeping physical intimacy out of the equation of our dating relationship provided so much clarity in our conversations about the future and our expectations for our relationship.
Do you know you can do the same thing? I mean, I can tell you right now that I have often had a lot of sex with somebody and then gone, hey, we've been seeing each other a lot. Do you want to be my boyfriend? And if they go no, I'm like, okay. It's called communication. Sex doesn't stop communication. Sex doesn't stop you from being able to use your lips and your tongue and your mouth and your breath and your vocal cords. It's called communication. And if you're having sex and you can't say, hey, this is what I want in our relationship, then you probably have something that you need to work on.
The novelty and excitement of sex starts to wear off eventually in a relationship, and it is easy to get caught up in physical intimacy and not spend enough time really building a relationship. If you do not build non-sexual intimacy, you may struggle when you're a few years into marriage and your sex life isn't all it used to be.
Well, you just kind of contradicted yourself just then. Yes, when you first meet someone, sex is amazing. After a while, your hormones start to wear off, and there is actually a biological reason for this, which I will not go into this video. That happens anyway. But at the same time, you can still build a platonic part of your relationship. You can still make non-sexual bonds with someone. You know, a lot of couples love gaming with each other. That is purely non-sexual. They're just going around and doing stuff together. A lot of people enjoy singing or playing music or lots of other things. They're all non-sexual activities which you can do while having sex, and you can still bond platonically while having sex at the same time.
I'm a single woman saving sex for marriage because I don't ever want to experience any anxiety wondering about what each new partner thinks.
This, unfortunately, is another example of how toxic purity culture is. If you are concerned about the previous activity of another person and how it reflects on you, then that's not healthy. And this is what purity culture wants you to think and wants you to feel. I don't think at all about any of my partner's relationships. If I did think about my partner's previous relationships, it'd be more in the sense of, hey, is there anything that you would like me to do? Or is there anything that we could work on together that you really liked? It's called experience.
I am not ready to get pregnant.
That's probably the only one that I can really agree with if you have problems with birth control. But birth control is really freaking effective.
Waiting until marriage made it much easier to let go of the men that broke my heart.
How do you know? You never had sex with them.
I want the possibility of being pregnant to be the most exciting thing that has ever happened to me, and I know I will only feel that in the security of marriage.
Well, you do you. I mean, personally, if I found out I was pregnant, it would not be exciting at all. I have some health issues that would make carrying a child extraordinarily painful. If you want to reduce yourself to only something that pushes out babies all the time, that's not good. I mean, you're more than that. You're a woman, you are healthy, you are wonderful, you have potential, you have your dreams and your wants and your wishes. You are not a baby making machine. Also, just because you're married doesn't mean it's safe. He can still dump you or go off and have sex with another woman. He can still abandon you. Just having a ring around your finger means absolutely nothing.
I am waiting until marriage because I have never met anyone that regretted choosing this way. On the contrary, I have known many people who regret not waiting.
Really? Because the poll that I put up on Twitter says differently. I, for one, am super glad that I never waited for marriage, because at the rate I'm going, I'm not going to get married. And you know what? I don't feel that I need to sacrifice a part of my personality, a part of who I am as a human being, as a person with needs and wants, because I might get married. It just doesn't make any sense to me, and it's not healthy.
Knowing my husband was willing to wait for me filled my heart with such a profound sense of love and security.
I had a long-distance relationship with someone, and they waited for me, and guess what? They found someone else and left and crushed me. Just because someone is waiting for you doesn't mean anything.
I have been married for 5 years. We were not chaste while dating and engaged, and I so wish we had been because it would make our marital sex life only a part of our marriage and unity instead of a carryover from our dating life. I wish I had understood back then how much respect we would have been showing to each other, building a foundation of self-denial for the better of your spouse.
Let's say you get married on Tuesday. On the Monday, you are that person. On the Wednesday, you are still that same person. You've just got a different last name if you have taken your husband's name. You were going to do it anyway. You need to make sure that you are compatible with this person. You might not realize, but they might be ace, or you might be ace, or whatever. I mentioned this earlier. Having sex with someone before you get married is actually a hell of a lot more healthy than, getting married and then finding out that you're not compatible. Also, it is a sign of respect to say, hey, let's have sex, and you're able to put down those boundaries before you get married. If you can put down those boundaries and say, this is what I want and this is what I don't want, and you make those boundaries into marriage, same thing.
My husband waited for me for 30 years. So when he was unexpectedly sent to Afghanistan for a year for work 5 months after our wedding, I never once worried about his fidelity.
Was he waiting specifically for you, or was he waiting for a wife? Very big difference. Also, being sent to a war zone screws people up. And, what if he's gay? And he finds out he's gay, and he's in Afghanistan surrounded by very good-looking men, and, things happen.
Living chastely respects your future marriage if you're called to it. If a marriage is respected and honored before it exists, imagine how beautifully you will be respected and honored as a spouse.
The idea that you have to respect something that doesn't exist is just insane. Like, what? I mean, what if you never meet that person and you are forced to be chaste for the rest of your life? What if the person that you fall in love with is not compatible with your Christian beliefs? Imagine, for example, you're a woman and you meet the most gorgeous man. He's kind, he's caring, he's loving, and he's an atheist. You can't marry that guy because you will be absolutely shunned by every single person you know unless you convert him. Just live your life. If you fall in love with an atheist guy and you are a Christian, fall in love, go for him. It's your only life that you have that you know for a fact. Imagine being 85 years old and still a virgin, going back and looking back on your life and going, I really did love that guy and I never took it up. That's the risk that you are playing, and it's sad.
Physical intimacy can be a band-aid for relationship problems, hiding them when they can be a sign that this isn't the right relationship for you.
Do you know what? That's actually true. I had a relationship very, very similar to that. On the other hand, that's because you're not communicating very well with your partner. That's an issue. Communication is the key to having a good relationship. If you are not happy with someone, or if you have an unhealthy relationship, there is a communication breakdown somewhere down the line. You need to be able to recognize that no amount of sex is going to fix that, and no amount of not sex is going to fix that. You need to learn how to communicate. And if you are being told your entire life that having sex is the reason for the making or breaking of a relationship and not communication, that is not good.
I chose to wait until marriage because it gave me a deep sense of freedom. I never once worried if I had an STD, if I was pregnant, or if my boyfriends only wanted me for sex.
Hey, you do you, boo. I have experience being completely free without sex, and yeah, it is a sense of freedom. Again, you're putting all of the emphasis on the partner, on the boyfriend, not on you. If you're worried about a guy only wanting you for sex, again, that is something that is not healthy, and you need to learn how to express that as a relationship. Learning how to communicate is so much better than refusing to have sex before you get married.
I always thought I was saving myself for my future spouse, but when I got married, I realized it was the greatest gift I gave to myself. I had no baggage from past sexual relationships, nothing holding me back from just loving freely. Knowing this would have been so helpful when I was a teenager, since sometimes it can seem like your future spouse is nowhere on the horizon.
People in purity culture is often told that you will always have a little bit of that person in you. That is the same for any relationship. I still mourn for a dog that I had that died almost 10 years ago. I still miss that dog horrendously. Does that mean that if I got a dog today, I would not love that dog as equally as I did for the previous dog? All relationships that you have leave a mark on you. You learn and grow from them all.
As a single woman, it has provided me great focus. By not having premarital sex, there's no feel-good distraction from the festering wounds that could one day destroy your relationship. You can focus on dealing with them before they become even bigger problems.
If you think having a relationship with someone is a festering wound, that is not healthy and you need to go and see someone. Yes, a lot of people have emotional baggage that come from things that happened to them when they were kids, adolescents, teenagers, young adults, whatever. Everyone has those things and you should always go and talk to a professional about them. But calling ex-partners festering wounds? Does anybody else feel that's just weird and wrong, or is it just me?
Waiting is about saying yes to authentic love and sacrifice, which is a great lesson for success in marriage. Preach. Love and sacrifice will be a choice you have to make every single day, especially after I do.
If you view your relationship with someone as a sacrifice, that is not healthy. Sacrificing someone or sacrificing yourself for someone is not okay. And the idea that you have to sacrifice yourself for someone, that's not healthy. You need to be able to practice your own self-love and your own self-worth. You should not have to sacrifice anything for other people. Yes, compromise and occasionally give something up for someone. But the word sacrifice, I'm really worried about that.
I never want to feel even the slightest doubt that giving all of myself to someone in sex could be a mistake.
Yes, you can have sex with people who were a major mistake. We've all done it. It's perfectly fine. And that is the beauty of learning and life experience. What if you meet this guy? He's beautiful. He's kind. He's wonderful. He's great. He has a fetish of having sex with some women who have a giant black eye and are crying. That could be his fetish. I don't think that's a particularly healthy fetish. What you're doing by not having sex with that person is you're finding out about this very, very dangerous fetish. I'm not kink shaming. If you can find someone who really enjoys being that sort of person and you are compatible, go for it. But if that's not for you, there's major, major issues with that.
By waiting until marriage, I know that I won't stay in the wrong relationship for way too long just because I'm bonded to him in this way. I am free to find someone who truly makes my heart feel more alive, not just more comfortable.
You know, you can find people that make your heart alive and have sex with them. I had a long distance relationship with somebody. We weren't having sex and my heart sang every time I talked to them. But at the same time, I'm in a relationship that every time I talk to them, my heart sings as well. It's just amazing to know that I can have that relationship in both directions. Sex isn't a thing that will make or break a relationship. It's the communication that will.
I never, ever wanted to feel the pain of giving all of myself to a man in sex, that relationship or pseudo relationship ending, then seeing him in the future and having him act casual or even ignore me like I don't exist.
Yeah, that sucks. We've all been through it. But running away from pain stops you from experiencing the highlights of things that are wonderful. Life is a series of ups and downs, and running away from pain is going to get rid of a lot of the ups. And often the most painful experiences of your life are also the ones with the most amazing stories. I know somebody who had water poisoning while climbing up to see Machu Picchu. It was one of the worst stories I've ever heard, but do you know what? If they didn't do Machu Picchu because they were afraid of water poisoning, they were never going to see such an amazing thing. Pain is a part of life, and running away from it makes your life a lot more boring.
I wanted to be absolutely sure that the first man I had sex with would still be there the next morning. And I trusted that a man who had made vows to me the day before in front of all of our friends and family would.
You know what? The vast majority of my relationships, the guy stayed there and we were there for a long time. I had a relationship that lasted almost 4 years. Just because you had sex with somebody, it doesn't mean that they're going to run away the next day. As I've mentioned several times in this video, just because he's married to you now doesn't necessarily mean in 5 to 10 years' time he's going to be married to you. Well, that's the last one. I hope you enjoyed that. Frankly, I don't think any of those points that they made me go, that's a really good point. With the exception of this pregnancy and STD version, yeah, maybe, but even still, condoms, birth control, that kind of thing, kind of takes away that threat anyway. It is so sad to hear these stories and have these people put so much emphasis on something that is perfectly normal, happy, healthy, and good for a relationship. Anyway, thank you for letting me ramble on a little bit. This was unscripted. Hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget, don't give yourself the raw prawn. I just want to say a very special thank you to my $10 Redback Spider patron, Aiden Fairball, Lauren Hart, Mary Civitano, Amanda Vogue, Ross Devereux, and Atheist Pastor. I also want to say a very special thank you to my $20 Platypus patron, Paul Butler and Ethan Stroop. Thank you for joining up, Ethan. Please check the links in the description below for the original video. Don't make yourself really guilty over something as immaterial as having sex with somebody that you like. It is fine. It is perfectly normal. Just stay safe, get educated, and make sure that you keep yourself clean.